Hi, welcome to Toast Time. This week I'm making Chinese bao buns. So those are the very fluffy, pillowy buns, and we are going to be using them for dinner. So I'm actually doubling the recipe. I have some chicken thawing, I have some barbecue shredded jackfruit. We're going to be doing a bunch of different fillings in these. To start, I'm going to do some warm milk, warm water. The sugar for this recipe is split because some goes in to help feed the yeast while it activates, and the other part of it just goes into the dough. And this is the sugar for this. I know it looks like a lot of sugar, but normally this would be the amount you'd split between them. Again, I'm doubling it. There's vegetable oil. This is all of the liquids basically, except for the sugar and yeast. Sprinkle it over the top. Let that sit for a second and do its thing. And this is all-purpose flour ready in my mixer bowl. I'll add in the other part of the sugar, salt, and baking powder. All right. Use my dough hook and give it a little mix, a little stir here. It's ready to go. And while we're waiting for this to work, I'm going to talk about how we cook this. We're not going to be doing any oven cooking or baking. This is steamed. They're steamed bao buns, and that's one of the things that makes it so fluffy. This is a special steaming basket. There are other ways you can do it if you don't have a steaming basket, but I can put some of that onto the web page with the recipe. For the steaming basket, I have one with two sections. This is the lid, and these are made out of bamboo usually. And each basket has the holes in the bottom, and that allows the steam from the pot to come through and cook it. Now, I line this with some parchment paper and I poke some holes in that because I don't want to have to be scrubbing this and damage my basket if it gets a little bit stuck, which it will. It tends to, and that's fine. It's okay. But it makes it clean up a lot easier. Let's see here. All right, we're starting to get some activation, starting to bubble up a little bit. I'm going to grab a spatula and just add it all into my dry ingredients. Now, normally when I'm working with yeast or certain things in a bowl, I'll stop before I pour it all in and give it a little swirl because it helps to get everything down from the sides, especially with yeast. It gets a little stubborn on the sides of the bowl. And the sugar is on the bottom. I'm going to give it a pretty good stir there. All right. This is going to go onto the mixer with the dough hook for a couple of minutes. All right, I had to add in about another tablespoon of flour per recipe, so it was a total of 2 tablespoons. And it's about 1/8 of a cup for the 2 recipes. And I let it go on the mixer with the dough hook. And I'm going to put it in here, and then I can show you the consistency. I'm putting it in a glass bowl because it's going to rise. We want it to triple in size. It's going to take about 2 hours. I'm going to use the proving oven to help it a little bit. The faster it proves, though, the less stable it actually is in the next steps as far as holding the prove in the air. So it's a soft dough right now. It's also going to hydrate a bit more while it sits, and we're going to be using flour when we roll it and cut it. I'm going to put a shower cap on here and get it rising. As you can see, the dough is ready to go. I wanted to show you a couple of things before we start rolling it out and working with the dough. This is the steamer basket, and I'm going to be putting a tammy on top, which has the mesh bottom here, because this fits very well but anytime I move it or something happens, it tips. I don't want to risk anything happening to the dough. I'm going to be putting boiling water in the bottom at the tammy to create stability, and then this will go on here, and I'm going to line it up with the top of the pot so that the steam isn't going all out the sides, but it will just a little bit. Now inside of here, I've cut some parchment paper to fill this area, and I'm going to take and puncture holes just in a few spots here where the holes already are in the steamer. That's it. Now I have some holes where that steam can come through. The other way, and there are a lot of different ways, and I'll have them on the site, but so this is one way I'm going to be doing it. And I figured, since I doubled the recipe, since we have a lot of people tonight, I'm going to show you this way as well. So I have a vegetable steamer basket, and this is actually the pot or the pan part for my pressure cooker. But it works really well because it's wide. I'm going to put this inside, and I was cutting some parchment paper to go on top of it. And this has the hole, the stem in the middle here. And I cut this hole so that that could go through there. With this, I'm going to do this. I'm going to cut a few slits in this one as well. And that way, the steam, again, can get through. All right, I'm going to put this, I don't know if you can see the holes that I made there. Yeah, that's there. All right, I'm going to put this over there, and we have another whole thing ready to go. All right, now I have a rolling pin. And I did boil some water in my electric kettle, so it won't take as long. And I cleaned off my board and cleaned up my space while I was waiting for that to rise. That is a lot of dough. Okay, I have my flour. I'm gonna try not to use too much, but I'm gonna sprinkle this on here. I'll probably work with this a half at a time because that's one recipe. All right. And since we are rolling this out, it's fine to deflate it. All right, I'll try to get half of this here. But you can see it rose very nicely. It has a lot of great webbing in there. All right, start with that. A little bit of flour on this side. And again, we don't want too much flour. We don't want to incorporate a whole lot, but we also don't want it sticking everywhere. Okay. Flip it over, rub in the flour that stuck to the side. And when I'm rolling out, I'm starting in the center, going out to the edge. Turn it 90 degrees. And do it again. Center out and center out. All right. Now I'm gonna do some that are smaller because the kids aren't going to eat big, huge ones. And then I'll probably do some that are larger. I'm going to make sure I cook them in batches with the same size that they are. Otherwise, things will cook unevenly. All right, I'm going to grab my biggest circle here. Okay. And make sure this is nice and rolled out. Okay. This and cut my circles. Now, these are going to be the smaller ones. I'll probably do this half of the dough as smaller and then the other half as a bit larger. Okay. I'm just trying to utilize the dough best as possible, obviously. And so this is 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And the recipe says between 14 and 16. So right there, I got it. The next step on this is to take your circle, do this one, take your circle, and I'm going to take vegetable oil and brush this side of it. Okay, brushing this side. Then I'm going to fold it in half, the oiled side in, folding it in half, and then taking the rolling pin and rolling it. So you want to attach those inside pieces, but it won't actually attach because of the oil, which is pretty cool. And I'm gonna roll those out. Then this is going to go into either of the baskets and sit for another 30 minutes. So I'll do some around the outside, and I do the curved to the outside so I can fit more of them. And I'll do probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in each basket, and then I'll have the vegetable steamer basket as well. I'm gonna get these set up and then they'll sit for 30 minutes and I'll come back when we get ready to cook them. I've done 2 different sizes. I have these in here and these in here. Then I also did some larger ones and I used a bowl. I used the top of it to create the shape. And if I needed to, because it creates a kind of a suction with the bowl, but then I need to kind of loosen it a bit and I just use the knife. Then I'm taking these, doing the same thing. And these are all ready to go here. And I have 5 of them ready to go, the larger. And I'm doing the same thing I did with the small, brushing on the oil, folding it over, and rolling it out. There, folding it over, lining up those edges, and rolling it out to connect them. And they have to sit. But the small ones have been sitting for the amount of time needed. I'm going to remove the tammy, turn on the heat, let this warm up for a quick second because I have the water that was just boiling. I don't want this to be ice cold, the pan here. Putting just a little bit of water in. That's it. And tammy goes back on. There, I think you can see it a little bit better. Put the lid on. I'm going to set a timer for about 12 minutes and then crack the lid. So this, take the steamer off of here and crack the lid and let it cool off a little bit while it's still in there. And then I can open it up and take them out. Then we can taste test. I'm going to get these going here now and I'll see you after that. I have my next batch already in the steamers, but this is the first batch. So we'll take a look. And they puffed up really nicely. They look kind of like little clams or little smiley faces. And we did the oil on the one side, which allows this to happen. And it opens up very easily, and it's nice and soft inside. And ta-da! Nice and flaky. Right? Let's see. Oh, and I'll show you also very pillowy soft. So once I compress it, it loses a lot of that. So you can see the difference of what it was. Okay. Cheers. These themselves don't have a lot of flavor. It's funny because there's not any butter, but the way I want to describe it is buttery. Very soft and tender. And it's a good neutral flavor that you're able to put savory or sweet into. Again, we're going to be doing savory tonight. We have 2 different types of chicken and some barbecue jackfruit. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Everybody's going to make their own bao buns. And this is a really great one, really fun. And if you have extra, then the next morning we like to make egg sandwiches out of them. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next toast time.